So again, I'm Chancey Marturell, Executive Director of the Thai Community Development Center and co-founder of the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, who couldn't be here, so I'm also speaking on their behalf as well. I want to start out first, first welcome to this press conference on preventing labor trafficking and exploitation in post-disaster rebuilding. As you know, we just had this amazing, major, devastating disaster in LA County. And now the recovery process and rebuilding process has started. But we need to ensure that process is equitable and it's just. But before we go into what we are calling for to ensure that just and equitable rebuilding process, I want to cite some statistics because this seems to be an occurrence that has occurred in the past after natural disaster. There is absolutely, it has been undeniably actually researched and also been evidence that there is a link between human trafficking and responses to natural disasters. That's really well documented. One of the largest labor trafficking cases in the U.S., in fact, is David et al. Versus Signo International et al., which involved individuals recruited to rebuild and repair oil rigs and marine facilities damaged by Hurricane Katrina. That was nearly 20 years ago. A 2024 study highlighted this connection and revealed a significant prevalence of labor trafficking among construction workers engaged in post-disaster recovery. In fact, a survey of 903 construction workers in Houston that had been conducted between August 2022 and August 2023 found that over 77% had experienced either labor trafficking or labor exploitation while working in construction. So based on these findings, researchers estimate that more than 1 in 5 construction workers in Houston experienced labor trafficking in the construction industry during their lifetimes. The construction industry, which is going to be the main industry in the rebuilding process, is consistently among the top sectors for identified labor trafficking cases. For instance, in 2021, the National Human Trafficking Hotline In 2021, the National Human Trafficking Hotline reported that the most common industries for labor trafficking, in addition to construction, were domestic servitude, agriculture, in addition to construction. Now, we know that the devastation that was wreaked on LA County, the wildfires, that was basically a conflagration, right? But it's a confluence of also climate change and dry weather and Santa Ana winds. Well, as climate change intensifies the frequency and severity of natural disaster, the demand of construction workers in recovery and in reconstruction efforts is expected to rise. And this escalating need underscores the critical importance of addressing labor trafficking within the construction industry. We also want to mention that, alarmingly, that same 2024 study in Houston revealed that 32% of workers in post-disaster construction reported experiencing labor trafficking, compared to 22% of the overall sample. So, labor needs and subsequent exploitation following natural disasters, as I said, is primarily rested in the construction industry. But please know that it expands beyond construction industry and the debris cleanup. Some trafficking victims have been employed, even as we speak, in the hospitality and maid services to accommodate displaced residents. And then, furthermore, there also can be sex trafficking, and that has been documented in the past as well, post-disaster, because of the heightened social and economic distress that occurs. And so, as Los Angeles struggles to rebuild from these devastating fires, again, I want to repeat, let it be an equitable and just recovery, whereby we avoid the pitfall of building as quickly as possible and not ensure that checks on environmental and labor protections are there. as social justice organizations here representing social justice and equity, we must band together to demand a just and equitable recovery, protecting workers, protecting residents, local businesses, and the environment, and build a stronger, more resilient, and sustainable community. And now, if you happen to come across a situation of trafficking, I'm going to wear now my my Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking hat as the founding board member. That I had the privilege of establishing what is now the largest service provider for survivors of human trafficking in the U.S. Launched in 2010, we have this CAST hotline, 888-KEY-TO-FREE. Is available 24/7, toll-free, completely anonymous, and accessible in more than 240 languages. It serves as the first step for survivors to access emergency response, safety, shelter, and critical services. CAST provides holistic support to survivors and their families, including emergency and long-term housing, immigration and legal services, case management, all to ensure their long-term safety and stability. Thai Community Development Center also provides traffic victim services as well, and that's another organization that can be contacted as well as other organizations here. Tzedek provides also the legal services for victims. So that concludes my remarks. I'm now going to turn my mic over to our next speaker as we still wait for our council member, Hugo Soto Martinez, from the Board of Supervisor Solis, Hilda Solis' office, her health deputy, Jasmine Delgado Garcia. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Garcia Delgadillo, and I'm the health deputy for Chair Pro Tem Solis. And on behalf of Chair Pro Tem Solis, who serves as the supervisor representing the 1st District, I would like to start by thanking you all for being here. I would also like to thank Thai CDC, AAPI Equity Alliance, Loyola Law School, Tzedek, and the Office of Immigrant Affairs for convening this important event. I'm honored to represent Chair Pro Tem Solis, whose efforts to combat labor trafficking and worker exploitation are rooted in her deep understanding of the systemic issues facing workers in vulnerable communities. Her work on these issues dates back to her tenure as Secretary of Labor under President Obama. As the first Latina appointed as Secretary of Labor in the United States, she strengthened protections for workers nationwide, particularly those in high-risk sectors like agriculture, construction, and the garment industry. And in the county, Chair Pro Tem Solis has dedicated herself to improving workplace safety, wage fairness, and the ability for workers to report abuse without fear of retaliation. One of Chair Pro Tem Solis' most notable efforts was her leadership in the fight for justice for the Thai immigrant garment workers in El Monte, California. In 1995, she was a critical ally in the rescue of over 70 Thai workers who had been held in modern-day slavery in a garment sweatshop. These workers had been subjected to grueling, unsafe labor conditions with little to no pay, and many had been forced into involuntary servitude. Chair Pro Tem Solis, alongside advocacy groups like Thai CDC, helped bring national attention to these egregious cases of labor trafficking. Following this traumatic experience, Chair Pro Tem Solis worked tirelessly to ensure that survivors received the support they needed to rebuild their lives. Her advocacy helped expose the widespread nature of labor trafficking in the garment industry, particularly among immigrant workers, and she pushed for stronger federal and state laws to protect workers from exploitation. Now, as Chair Pro Tem of Los Angeles County, she continues to be a trailblazer in the fight against human trafficking. In 2017, Chair Pro Tem Solis sponsored a sex trafficking symposium in the city of Pomona. This brought together county and community agencies to discuss available services for victims, as well as community and law enforcement efforts to prevent human trafficking and infrastructure changes needed to address the issue more effectively. And in October 2023, the board adopted a motion authored by Chair Pro Tem Solis asking for a report on the efforts the county has taken to address human trafficking and recommendations on how the county can better address the issue of human trafficking with a public health framework. And earlier this month, Chair Pro Tem Solis introduced another motion directing the county to move forward with recommendations found in the 2023 report back. This includes the creation of a human trafficking prevention coordinating body and the establishment of a collaborative and systemic human trafficking data collection and sharing system. Chair Pro Tem Solis demonstrated decades of work on human trafficking and labor exploitation and recognizes that the work requires input from the community of survivors of human trafficking. We know that the county attracts exploitation of trafficked workers due to its multiple ports of entry, cultural diversity, and population of immigrants who are often vulnerable. It is vital that during these times of crisis, we remain vigilant and aware of the possibility of labor exploitation and trafficking for workers who are being hired to help rebuild the areas and infrastructure within our county that were affected by the January windstorm and fires. The prevalence of labor trafficking is due to the demand for work and rapid response during recovery phases. We must send a clear message that LA County will not stand or allow for trafficking and labor exploitation. And we must continue the county's leadership and progress on this issue through the collaborative hard work of our government, community partners, with survivors of trafficking at the forefront. Thank you.
We now have our council member from Council District 13 of City of Los Angeles, Hugo Soto Martinez here, who will now make some remarks as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chancey. My apologies for being late, just coming from another event. But I do want to thank Thai CDC for putting together this press event, the Loyola Law School Anti-Trafficking Initiative, BETSEDEC, the AAPI Equity Alliance. I see some folks from PwC, the Supervisors Solis, thank you for being a champion on this issue and leading it on behalf of the county, and all the different LA County staff and departments that are here today. And if I missed your name, I apologize. But we are here today because human trafficking is happening right now, every single day, under our nose, right in front of us, and we're not even noticing or recognizing why it's happening and where it's happening. Now, estamos unidos porque el tráfico humano y el robo de sueldo está pasando en nuestra ciudad cada día abajo de nuestras narices y ni nos estamos dando cuenta y qué amplio esta situación es en la ciudad. And after this wildfire that devastated so many parts of our county, we know that it's going to be open for more of that exploitation and more of that wage theft, because what are the industries that are going to be helping rebuild our city? Those are construction workers, domestic workers, day laborers. These are folks that are more susceptible and more vulnerable to human trafficking and wage theft. We know that these industries are already the most exploitative, the most abused, and this is only going to make things more difficult for us to enforce. And so this isn't just a moral issue, it's also a failure of our policies. We simply do not invest enough as a city or as a county or other municipalities to make sure that we are protecting workers at all levels. Y esto no es solamente una cuestión moral, pero también es un fracaso de nuestras pólizas, de nuestros enfoques como ciudad. Simplemente no estamos invirtiendo suficiente dinero del condado y la ciudad y las otras municipales para asegurar que tengamos protecciones. So what we are saying to folks right here is that we need different things. We need to have an increasing public awareness to prevent trafficking before it starts. We need to prepare more for disaster preparedness to make sure that these workers are not exploited, because we already know that Los Angeles County is the wage theft capital of the United States, and we cannot allow ourselves to go even more backwards. We need to take this moment as opportunity to move forward. And finally, we have to be able to expand legal help, housing support, and so that make sure that people who are trafficked have the resources and the people to improve their lives once they are rescued. Pero significa muchas cosas de parte de la ciudad y el condado. Significa tenemos que aumentar el conocimiento público para prevenir el tráfico antes que empiece. Tenemos que aumentar el entrenamiento para estar más preparados y responder durante los desastres naturales. Y tenemos que tomar medidas drásticas contra el robo de salario y el tráfico humano, que les cuesta sobre $1,000 millones a las personas aquí en la ciudad de Los Ángeles cada año. Ya somos el capital del robo de sueldo en todos los Estados Unidos y no podemos permitir que este momento se haga la situación más peor. Y finalmente tenemos que aumentar la asistencia legal de viviendas y soportar a las personas que estamos salvando de ser traficadas aquí en la ciudad. And let me be very clear. If you're a company or an employer engaged in wage theft, we will make sure that we put the entire legal weight of the city of Los Angeles to make sure that you are prosecuted and you face the consequences of your actions. Y quiero estar muy claro, si encontramos una compañía o un empleador que está haciendo estos tipos de abusos, vamos a asegurar que usemos toda la fuerza de la ciudad de Los Ángeles para penalizar a estas personas y asegurar que la ley, en este caso, venga y sea, que tengamos justicia para los trabajadores. Because we recognize that nobody should be trafficked here in the city of Los Angeles, or in the county of Los Angeles, or anywhere in this region. So we gotta make, so anyway, so I'm very happy here to support. Our office will do what we can in the city of Los Angeles, and we will continue to work with our county partners to make sure that we have collaboration and we use all our resources to crack down on this very important issue. So muchas gracias a todos. Mi equipo en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, vamos a hacer todo lo posible para ayudar en esta causa, y también vamos a trabajar con los condados y las diferentes organizaciones no lucrativas para asegurar que hagamos todo lo posible. So thank you so much to our partners as well in the community for all the amazing work that you do. Thank you so much.
So my name is Professor Richard, and I will be giving closing remarks for the call to action today. But we wanted to share Supervisor Holly Mitchell's statement because she sends regrets that she could not attend. So she says, wildfires and other natural disasters leave too many Angelenos vulnerable to exploitation and labor trafficking, stripping them of their homes, jobs, and vital support. LA County is taking a proactive public health approach to stopping trafficking before it starts. We are committed to strong prevention measures now and a resilient response framework for the future as we work through the county's Office of Labor Equity and our other regional partners. That's Supervisor Holly Mitchell. Thank you so much for your support. Ryan Jordan.
Even as the flames burned here in LA, we witnessed what our community truly is. We saw the heart of LA County. Resilient, kind, humane, and taking care of each other. But we also know that amidst this outpouring of support and care for our neighbors, there are a small group of people who instead see an opportunity for exploitation and cruelty. History tells us that in the aftermath of a natural disaster, vulnerable workers, the very people we rely on to rebuild our communities, become even more susceptible to abuse. Statistics paint a stark picture. Wage theft, unsafe working conditions, workers' compensation fraud, and even human trafficking. All of these abuses increase when communities are at their most vulnerable. I stand here as a representative of the District Attorney's Office today with our partners, united in the commitment to protect these essential workers. We understand the challenges they face, and we pledge to use every legal tool at our disposal to ensure their rights and their lives are upheld and protected. Employers, hear this. You must pay them a fair wage. You must pay them on time.
Yes.
You must provide them the protective equipment, the rest, the breaks they deserve and they need to stay safe.
Yes.
And you must respect their dignity, allowing them control over their own lives, free from coercion, fraud, fear, or violence. And let me be clear, unscrupulous employers who choose to abuse workers here in LA County will face the full force of the law.
Yes.
We will not tolerate inhumanity towards those we depend on to clean up and rebuild our neighborhoods going forward. Workers are the backbone of Los Angeles. They are vital to everything that makes this a great county. And as we rebuild, we will do everything in our power to support them. We will connect them with resources, ensure their voices are heard, and hold accountable those who exploit them. Los Angeles will be rebuilt by the hands of hardworking people, and we will honor their labor by ensuring their rights are protected so that together we build a stronger, more just Los Angeles County for all who live here.
Yes.
Thank you to our partners for being here today. Thank you for the invitation to speak. Thank you for letting me represent my office. And thank you for caring about these workers as they will care for us. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director of the County Office of Immigrant Affairs, Rigo Reyes.
So make no mistake that immigrants, particularly those who are undocumented, are incredibly vulnerable to human and labor trafficking. What makes them so vulnerable is not just the fact, as Ryan mentioned, they are the ones rebuilding our devastated communities, but they are very afraid to report any abuse. They feel and believe that if they complain, that may have immigration repercussions given their status. Another thing that is very difficult for them is language access. If they call and we don't have the ability to answer the call in their language, they're just going to get discouraged and they're going to give up. That is why it's crucial that we work with all the partners that are here and more, who are in the community day in, day out, providing the information that our communities need to know what resources are available and how to connect with us in the language and with the cultural and immigration sensitivities. So we need to commit to working with these trusted communities, supporting them in any way we can to again get the message out that is timely, that is clear, and that is accurate. Because there is a lot of misinformation going on in the community, particularly now with the shift in immigration policies that are again impacting those vulnerable workers. And now I'm gonna say this in Spanish quickly. Es muy importante recordarnos que en este tiempo de crisis, los inmigrantes, particularmente aquellos que no tienen sus documentos migratorios en orden, están grandemente expuestos al abuso de la trata de humanos y la explotación en aspectos del trabajo. ¿Por qué? Primero que todo, ellos son los que están al frente de reconstruir el desastre que estamos enfrentando a causa de los incendios. Segundo, tienen un gran temor de represalias migratorias, que si se quejan porque no les han pagado su salario, porque los han abusado, maltratado, temen que eso puede ocasionarles problemas con su caso de inmigración. Y también algo más básico, a veces tratan de comunicarse, reportar estos problemas solo para encontrarse con obstáculos donde no hablamos su idioma o no entendemos su cultura, no entendemos el miedo y el temor que tienen debido a su situación. Por eso es importantísimo no solamente reconocer los esfuerzos de todas las organizaciones que están aquí y muchas otras en la comunidad que están trabajando día a día para ayudarlos a que entiendan sus derechos, conozcan los recursos disponibles y tengan la confianza de acudir a nosotros. Por eso es que a mí me da un gran honor de participar aquí. Gracias a todas las organizaciones y de vuelta la Oficina de Asuntos de Inmigrantes del Condado de Los Ángeles, en el Departamento de Asuntos de Consumidores y Negocios, está aquí como la puerta para los inmigrantes y sus familias al condado para que conozcan y tengan acceso a los servicios que podemos facilitarles. Now I'm going to turn the mic to my colleague, Deputy Director of the Office of Labor Equity in the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, Rose Basmajian.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose Basmajian, and I'm the Deputy Director, as Rico mentioned, over the Office of Labor Equity within the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. I will go a little bit into the services that DCBA offers. We offer consumer protection against fraud, scams, and unfair business practices, tenant and landlord assistance to resolve dispute and promote housing stability. DCBA drives strategies and programs that promote immigrant equity, as my colleague Rigo Reyes mentioned before me. And we implement workplace protections to safeguard workers' rights and promote labor equity. And this is where DCBA's Office of Labor Equity comes in. Our mission is to protect workers and ensure fair wages, safe working conditions, and prevention of all forms of labor exploitation. At the center of this work is to end human trafficking. Alongside many partners that are here joining us today, at the local, state, and federal levels. As we all know, human trafficking is a global crisis. Worldwide, approximately 27 million individuals are exploited for labor services and commercial sex. Sadly, we are not immune in LA County. Some of those victims are right here in our backyard in LA County. Human trafficking is a form of labor trafficking, which is against a person's will, or labor exploitation, which might abuse a person's misunderstanding of the current workplace protection laws and wage laws. We're not going to tolerate that here. Predators are targeting vulnerable individuals in the aftermath of recent fires to lure more victims with false promises that are too good to be true. In times of disaster recovery, the need for workers increases rapidly. Unfortunately, this often creates an environment where vulnerable workers may be trafficked or exploited in reconstruction projects. As we stand here today, there are countless of workers facing exploitation. The promise of a better life and stable work can often create a cycle of abuse, fraud, and manipulation. Our office has vast experience in this area and continues to collaborate with various county agencies and community-based organizations to address trafficking in massage establishments. Similarly, our efforts in massage establishment enforcement, we are committed to working alongside our partners to combat workplace exploitation during disaster recovery. We will enforce every applicable law against those who seek to harm vulnerable individuals in our communities, especially during this phase of disaster recovery. We proudly stand with our partners here today, representing large network dedicated to this fight, and declare our renewed commitment to stop human trafficking and protect vulnerable workers. Education is key to prevention. Through our prevention of human trafficking ordinance, which I want to thank Joe for, and our outreach efforts, we aim to educate the community on how to spot the warning signs of trafficking and how to report it. We are here to help victims, their families, and community members who want to learn how to identify and take immediate steps to remedy these issues. So please call us at 1-800-593-8222 or visit our website at workers.lacounty.gov. It takes courage to take action to escape cycles of abuse. We have a message to workers throughout LA County. You are protected by laws. And the principle is clear. Honest work deserves fair pay. When a bad actor violates the standard, we will hold them accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Deputy County Counsel, Joseph Mills.
I am a Deputy County Counsel in our Affirmative Litigation and Consumer Protection Division, led by Assistant County Counsel Scott Kuhn, and I am part of our division's Worker Protection Team. I am also co-chair of the Labor Trafficking Subcommittee of the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force, led by the County Sheriff's Department. My co-chair is the magnificent Ryan Jorban. We thank the Thai Community Development Center, the Sunita Jain Institute, and everyone else for bringing attention to the issue of potential labor exploitation, from wage theft to labor trafficking in the county's post-fire rebuilding efforts. We are also grateful to work in collaboration with our fellow county agencies, including the District Attorney, the Office of Immigrant Affairs, the Office of Labor Equity, and many others, as well as with our nonprofit and community-based organization partners such as Thai CDC, the Asian Pacific Islander Human Trafficking Task Force, BETSEDEC, and many others. And of course, we thank City Council Member Soto Martinez and our own Supervisor Solis for their stalwart help to shine light generally on the issue of human trafficking and particularly on the issue in the aftermath of the fires. It is indisputable. It is indisputable, as was said earlier, that post-disaster reconstruction workers in other jurisdictions, such as Houston, Texas, in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey in 2017, have experienced cruel levels of labor exploitation. Indeed, as was mentioned earlier, in Houston, research has shown that up to 77% of all reconstruction workers experience some form of exploitation, with at least 30%, a third, having suffered outright labor trafficking. That's slavery. We are here to join our fellow government agencies, our nonprofit partners, and our community-based organization partners to say, not in Los Angeles County. We will collaborate with all of our partners to monitor the rebuilding activity and to maintain vigilance regarding worker exploitation from wage theft to labor trafficking. We are committed in our capacity as civil prosecutors to holding unscrupulous businesses accountable when and if they engage in exploitative conduct in the rebuilding process and as an ongoing mission. And when workers are victimized, we are also committed, along with all of our partners, to ensuring that victims have access to the services that they need to recover from the trauma of being exploited and to thrive as self-sufficient human beings. Thank you all so much for your attention to this extraordinarily important matter. And now, if I may, I will introduce the Executive Director for the Asian American Pacific Islander Equity Alliance, Manjusha Kulkarni, Esquire. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Good afternoon. My name is Manju Kulkarni, and I'm Executive Director of AAPI Equity Alliance. AAPI Equity Alliance is a coalition of 50 community-based organizations that together serve and represent the 1.6 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Los Angeles County. I want to start by thanking Thai CDC, a longtime member of AAPI Equity Alliance. Chansey and Panita and their staff have tirelessly advocated against human trafficking for decades and have led the AAPI Equity Alliance's Human Trafficking Task Force for over a decade. I'm also grateful that today they have shined a light on this important issue, along with City Council Member Soto Martinez, staff of our city and county agencies, and our nonprofit partners here today. AAPI Equity Alliance and our members have been on the front lines of this disaster. As I mentioned, one in six Angelenos is Asian American or Pacific Islanders. We recently released a report with UCLA which shows that definitively AAPIs and our community members have been severely impacted by the wildfires. Specifically, 50,000 of our community members were impacted by the 4 major wildfires in Los Angeles County, just like everyone else. And it's for this reason that AAPI Equity Alliance and our members recently released a resource guide available in multiple Asian languages to help our community members to access needed resources and services. But we also know that our community has unique obstacles when it comes to language accessibility. The report that I mentioned with UCLA found that 12,000 of our members, community members in LA, are limited English proficient. That means that emergency alerts that the government sent out did not reach them. They were unaware of the fact that the fire was just mere blocks from their homes. And this is unacceptable, and we have to change this. And so that issue remains important when we talk about the issue of human trafficking and labor exploitation. Human trafficking is too often overlooked in the aftermath of a disaster, and the vulnerable people that we're here to uplift are hotel workers, restaurant and home care workers,
who are likely out of jobs right now and who are the most vulnerable to exploitation. Disaster recovery, we all know, is a long and arduous journey, but we must keep these individuals front and center in our efforts. They are the backbone of the economic engine that drives Los Angeles, and they must be protected. For that reason, we are here to call on all our government entities, local, state, and federal, to allocate needed resources to this critical problem, and we stand with each and every one of those individuals who has been exploited. We are here to protect you. We are here to work and advocate for your needs and make resources available. And so now it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce Panita Jansa, who has been a longtime leader in our community. She is the co-chair of the AAPI Equity Alliance Human Trafficking Task Force and is also directing attorney of Thai CDC.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Panita Jansa. I'm the co-chair of the API Human Trafficking Task Force. About 10 years ago, we came together as a handful of organizations and government agencies to see how we could do better together in the fight against both sex and labor human trafficking. We saw that there was a rise in human trafficking cases of foreign national victims from Asia and the Pacific Islands. Because here in Los Angeles, we are fortunate to have so many service providers with linguistic and cultural competencies from API countries, it just made sense to band together to increase human trafficking awareness in our communities, increase victim-centered services, and coordination with critical partners in law enforcement and governmental agencies. Since we were conceived, we have served hundreds of victims that may never have been identified but for our efforts, and provided them with resources and direct services. Our primary direct services include in-language legal representation, case management, and mental health services. We have implemented human trafficking awareness campaigns, trained the community and law enforcement, and advocated for increased worker protections to help them stem the tide of exploitation. Despite our efforts, human trafficking and labor exploitation have gone unabated. This is why we are here today, to ensure that the stories of the victims that have been identified are not forgotten and help protect against future abuse. Now I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Mary Tanago Ross, the Vice President of Legal Programs at VetSedec Legal Services. Mary?
Thank you, Panita. It was the summer of 2005 when Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans and the surrounding region. I was there just a few months later as a young, bright-eyed college student, working alongside NGOs to help rebuild and serve impacted families. I still can remember the look on people's faces who had just experienced unimaginable devastation, but yet were so resilient and hopeful. The sentiment was that there was such urgency, despite the rubble, to get to work and start rebuilding, similar to the sentiment we feel today in Los Angeles. In the aftermath of that horrific hurricane, as Chancey discussed earlier, hundreds, if not thousands, of immigrant welders and pipe fitters were trafficked for their labor to fix damaged oil rigs.
Ni de una ciudad a otra. Todos tenemos que aprender las señales de la trata de personas para estar atentos, sobre todo después de este desastre natural, de los incendios y el proceso de reconstrucción de Los Ángeles. Cualquier persona puede ser víctima, no importa si uno es ciudadano o no, si es adulto o menor de edad, si habla inglés o no. La trata de personas laboral puede ocurrir en cualquier industria, incluyendo la construcción, el trabajo doméstico, el hospedaje, los restaurantes, la costura y más. Ser víctima de la trata de personas no es un delito. Solo la persona que causa la trata es un criminal.
ผมบุญลือขัดกันทาครับผมเป็นคนงานก่อสร้างผมยังเป็นสามีพ่อและคุณตาด้วย ผมมาจากประเทศไทยผมมาอาศัยอยู่ที่ลอสแองเจลิสมานานเป็นเวลา10 ปีแล้วที่ไทยผมเป็นเกษตรกรตอนนั้นผมยากจนมากแต่ถึงผมจะยากจนแต่ผมก็หวังและพันถึงชีวิตที่ดีขึ้นสำหรับครอบครัวเลยเมื่อมีนายหน้าบอกว่าผมมาทำงานเกษตรในอเมริกาได้ผมก็รีบคว้าโอกาสนี้นะทันทีผมคิดว่าผมฝันที่จะเป็นจริงแล้วผมรู้ว่ามันจะเป็นงานหนักและต้องกู้เงินมาจ่ายให้นายหน้าและจะมาคนเดียวด้วยจะมาคนเดียวในต่างแดนแต่ผมได้รับสัญญาว่าจะได้รับเงินจำนวนที่ไม่สามารถพันถึงว่าจะหาในไทยได้ผมจะไม่คว้าโอกาสนี้เพื่อครอบครัวได้อย่างไรแต่ผมมาถึงในอเมริกาความผันก็กลายเป็นฝันร้ายผมถึงความนุษย์ผมถูกกักให้ทำงานในฟาร์มด้วยไม่ได้รับค่าจ้างมันแย่มากผมไม่สามารถส่งเงินกลับบ้านเพื่อเลี้ยงดูครอบครัวหรือจ่ายหนี้ให้เพราะไม่ได้รับค่าจ้างในที่สุดผมก็สามารถหนีจากผู้ฆ่ามนุษย์ได้ผมเป็นหนึ่งในผู้โชคดีผมได้รับความช่วยเหลือจากศูนย์ส่งเสริมชาวไทยและได้รับทีวีซ่าเพื่อที่จะได้อยู่ในอเมริกาเพื่อช่วยเหลือในการนำผู้ค้ามนุษย์เข้าสู่การระบบยุติธรรมผมดีใจที่สามารถพาครอบครัวมาจากประเทศไทยได้หลังจากที่หนีออกจากผมมาที่ลอสแองเจลิสผมมีชุมชนไทยที่นี่ผมเริ่มทำงานก่อสร้างเนื่องจากผมไม่มีโอกาสมากเพราะผมพูดภาษาอังกฤษไม่ได้และมีการศึกษาจำกัดแต่มันก็เป็นงานและผมรู้ว่าถ้าทำงานหนักก็สามารถทำได้ครอบครัวมีชีวิตขึ้นได้คนงานก่อสร้างหลายคนก็เหมือนผมพวกเราหลายคนพูดภาษาอังกฤษได้น้อยหรือแทบพูดไม่ได้พวกเราหลายคนไม่มีการศึกษามากนักดังนั้นพวกเราจึงเสี่ยงต่อการถูกเอาเปรียบอย่างมากเพราะพวกเราไม่รู้จะต่อสู้เพื่อตนเองได้อย่างไรหรือจะไปขอความช่วยเหลือจากที่ไหนแต่พวกเราทุกคนเป็นคนซื่อสัตย์และขยันพวกเราแค่หวังว่าจะได้รับค่าจ้างที่ยุติธรรมจากการทำงานเพื่อที่เราจะมอบชีวิตที่ดีกว่าให้ลูกหลานเราดังนั้นได้โปรดยืนหยัดเคียงข้างพวกเราในขณะที่เราทำงานหนักไม่เพียงเพื่อสร้างลอสแองเจลิสขึ้นมาใหม่เท่านั้นแต่เราก็กำลังสร้างชีวิตใหม่ด้วยอย่าปล่อยให้นายจ้างที่ไม่ดีเอาเปรียบเราและทำลายความหวังและความฝันของเราขอบคุณครับ
Thank you, Mr. Bunlu. I'll translate what he said. Good afternoon. My name is Bunlu Gatkanta. I am a construction worker. I'm also a husband, a father, and a grandfather. I'm originally from Thailand, but I have been living in Los Angeles for decades. In Thailand, I was a farmer. I was very poor, but even though I was poor, I hoped and dreamed of a better life for my family. So when I was told by a recruiter that I could come to work in farms in the US, I jumped at the opportunity. I thought my dream would come true. I knew it would be hard work, that I had to take out a loan to pay the recruiter, that I would be all alone in a foreign land, but I was promised that I would get paid in an amount that I couldn't dream of in Thailand. How could I not take this opportunity for my family? However, once I arrived in the US, my dream turned into a nightmare. I was trafficked. I was kept working on farms without getting paid. It was awful. I couldn't send money home to support my family or to pay off my debt because I didn't get paid for my work. Eventually, I managed to escape my traffickers. I was one of the lucky ones. I found help at the Thai Community Development Center and received T visa so I could stay in the US to assist in bringing my traffickers to justice. I was relieved to be able to bring my family to reunite with me from Thailand. After I escaped my trafficking situation, I came to Los Angeles because of the large Thai community here. I started working in construction as I didn't have many opportunities due to my limited English proficiency and education level. But it's work, and I know that if I work hard, I can give my family a better life. Many construction workers are like me. Many of us speak little or no English. Many of us don't have much education. So we are very vulnerable to exploitation because many of us might not know how to stand up to ourselves or where to get help. But all of us are honest, hard-working people. We only hope that we will get paid fairly for our work so that we can give our children a better life than us. So please, stand with us as we work hard not only to rebuild Los Angeles, but many of us are rebuilding lives as well. Don't let bad employers exploit us and ruin our hopes and dreams. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with us till the very end to hear our call of action to you today. Hello, my name is Professor Stephanie Richard, and I'm the director of the Sunita Jain Anti-Trafficking Initiative at Loyola Law School. We are a practitioner-led, survivor-informed think tank dedicated to preventing human trafficking in California through a public health approach. For 20 years, I've devoted myself to addressing human trafficking in Los Angeles County. Today, I stand before you with an urgent and impassionate plea. The need for action to prevent human trafficking in the wake of disasters such as the recent LA fires is both immediate and long-term. Evidence-based data unequivocally shows the direct link between human trafficking and the chaos that follows natural disasters as well as during the rebuilding process. However, Los Angeles has already embraced a public health approach to combating trafficking, which positions us well to immediate and decisive action using existing resources and collaboration of all the agencies and NGO partners here today. Research suggests a robust three-prong approach to preventing human trafficking, and we stand here to ask the LA City Council members and LA City Board of Supervisors to pass a motion with these three provisions. 1, we must raise awareness about the human trafficking in the wake of natural disasters. When I reached out to local, state, and federal contacts in January following the fires, it took just brief conversations for them to grasp the urgency of human trafficking in the context of natural disasters. This is not the instinctive reaction for most people. Our residents must be educated to recognize that promises that look too good to be true often are, and they need to know where to seek help. Second, we need uniform training for responders. City and county agencies and workers involved in disaster response and pre-planning must receive standardized training on the specific vulnerabilities to human trafficking that arise after natural disasters. This training ensures that our response workers integrate this critical understanding into both immediate and long-term efforts. And 3, we must update our city and county's procurement policies and increase enforcement around worker protections. We must revise LA City and County procurement policies to prevent trafficking in the goods we repurchase for rebuilding. Moreover, we must ensure strict enforcement in the areas where the rebuilding is occurring to send a clear message, as you've heard from our partners today, that our city and our county will not be rebuilt on the exploitation of workers. Together, we stand united today to call on the Board of Supervisors and the LA City Council to introduce this motion immediately, taking this necessary three-prong approach. We will now take questions from anyone who's left from the press and or in the audience. Thank you so much.